Hello and happy Wednesday. So this is your Wednesday organization lecture. I'm going to set up the assignment for you, which you already know about. You're going to be writing a claim paragraph. And just to be metacognitive about that, I want to explain how we'll break it down. So we're starting this week with the parts of the essay that are in the middle, the claim paragraphs, your body paragraphs. And then next week, we'll work on building a strong claim paragraph with the thesis statement at the end, which will function as the introduction. Claim paragraphs, it's a bit of an artificial separation because a thesis statement contains a claim as well. But I want to at least pause and acknowledge that the intro paragraph with its thesis statement is different than the claim paragraphs that you build after that. The building blocks of our AP Literature study are claim paragraphs, the meat of the argument, what it is that you want to say about a text. And the thesis statement is more of the preview that you'd give the reader. So we'll start with the central skill, the one that we began with. And let's do a little bit of review on that since it's been a few weeks since I've done that with you. So this is skill 7A. It's the very first line in our strand of writing. 7 goes all the way to E, A through E. The first one is that you are able to develop a paragraph that includes a claim at the beginning that requires defense and evidence for the claim. So how do you do this? Well, like you've been doing, you read a text closely to identify details that, when they are all combined together, enable you to make and defend a claim about one aspect of the text. I will be asking you today, the prompt will be about structure. So you'll be making your claim about the structure of the Joy Luck Club. So again, what is the definition from the AP people? It is a statement that requires defense with evidence from the text. That's what you're really focusing on today. Good claims respond to the prompt, but they provide an original idea, a novel idea. And that's where I just would say trust yourself, because you have these ideas. We do this all the time. And when I'm asking you about structure in the Joy Luck Club, there's so many components to that you could bring up that are creative and interesting. Trust that the one that you're thinking of initially is good as long as you root it in the text. And one of the mistakes that weaker claims make is they get into interesting ideas, but they're not necessarily related to the Joy Luck Club, or they make generalizations. Structure is something that novels do to make a point. As I once saw in Huck Finn, all of that, it's off the table. We are staying focused on Joy Luck Club. We're staying focused on the specific ways that this novel uses structure. And then in your paragraph, the best claims would convince the reader that the details that you've uncovered are important. They matter to the content of the book. So here is the prompt that I'll be using my examples to explain. Identify the structure of the text. Then explain its purpose in introducing character and conflict. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of texts that are complete. That is, we've finished them. They're shorter texts. But notice I am acknowledging that you're only a quarter of the way through the book. What we're really trying to understand today is, how is the structure of the Joy Luck Club immediately setting up some conflict or immediately setting up some characterization? So my first example is The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. I did this the very first week with you all. The questions that are swimming around in my mind as I try to understand the structure of the story are the same ones I presented on Sunday. So to what degree does The Story of an Hour honor a linear or non-linear sequence? And what do I gain by that structure? What do I lose? What sort of complexity does the structure add to the story? And finally, why do I think Chopin chose that structure above all else? So those are things that are inspiring my thinking as I go to the text and I try to find my idea. I'm going to always start with the prompt. So it's asking me to identify the structure and then explain why that's important. So I will do that. It is linear structure I've identified. So let me start by saying in my claim, The Story of an Hour uses a linear structure. And now I have to explain, what does that matter? To detail how, like a flower, Mrs. Mallard emerges in a full bloom and then just as quickly loses everything. Okay, so it's a little more creative of a Response, it's more creative writing. I don't exactly say what I'm going to defend with such specificity, but I've captured my main idea, which is I want to reveal how this life that Mrs. Mallard lives is brief. She blossoms before our eyes, and then she dies. It has to happen in a linear fashion. I cannot structure the blooming of a flower any other way. It moves through time. Here is my full example. I'm not going to read it to you. Please pause this video to read in full my example. You'll notice I defend my claim with examples from the text. I do not use quotes. You do not need to use quotes this week for lots of reasons. First, that the structure question doesn't lend itself to quotes. And secondly, because in the AP essay, you won't necessarily use quotes. So we need to practice that sometimes. This is just a good moment of practice. All right, so go ahead and read it. Okay, you're back. So my first example, the claim paragraph where I defend what I have set out as my claim. Let's do another one. This time, I'm considering a poem, This Room and Everything in It by Li. Same questions. To what degree is this linear, non-linear? To what degree is it non-traditional or traditional? What do I gain as the reader by that structure? What do we lose? What complexity does it add? And why would he choose this structure? Okay, well, in the poem, it's definitely non-linear. And I'm going to identify it as flashback structure. So my claim is Li's This Room and Everything in It employs a flashback structure, definition. Why? To communicate themes of loss and memory, revealing that our thoughts of the past are necessarily incomplete. Okay, in this claim paragraph, I tried to use a different voice stylistically because there's lots of right ways to do this. I used first person, which you can get away with sometimes. And I tried to use a little bit more imagery in my response and make it feel more like a contextual paragraph that I could place at the beginning of my argument before I really dive into specific details of the poem. So feel free to pause, read my example, and then it is your turn. Structure practice number 3 is where you will write your claim paragraph in your BGD and then also in the discussion board. I'd like you to identify the structure of the Joy Luck Club, explain its purpose, and introducing character and conflict. Good luck!